Welcome to Chapter 13, Perimeter and Area. The essential question for this chapter is, why is it important to measure perimeter and area? Okay, let's take a quick look at the vocabulary words for this chapter before we get into Lesson 1. Okay, the first one is area and perimeter. Okay, perimeter is talking about the outside edge of an object. Okay. Perimeter answers this question. How long is the outside of the object? Okay, so when we talk about perimeter, we're thinking about this outside part. And if this was a city block, we could think about how far it would take to walk, or run, or drive. Okay, if this is a shape, we can measure its size on the outside by thinking about perimeter. Okay, then there's this other concept, which is area. And area answers the question, how much space is inside the object? Okay, so when we talk about area, we're talking about the inside of an object. So we don't so much care about how long it would take to get outside. We're thinking about all this space in here. How much space is there inside of this object? Okay, and now remember back to fractions when we talked about a unit fraction. A unit fraction was like this. It was one unit. It was one part of a fraction with the denominator. Or it could have been 1/3. Or 1/2. Those were unit fractions. So this is a unit square. It means one square of the entire shape. One square of the entire object. So if you're thinking square units, it's going to be one of these. One piece of the entire object will be the unit square. Okay. We'll see more of these as we get into the chapters. Now let's start with Lesson 1 on page 825. Lesson 1, 825. All right, seems like I got a little oil on here. That's all right. We can still see it. All right. Lesson 1, essential question. Why is it important to measure perimeter and area? So this lesson is going to introduce perimeter. It says the distance around a closed figure is called the perimeter. Perimeter. So this is the outside. So imagine walking around, and they have little shoes there to show you could almost walk around a park. Berto walked around a park on the rectangular path shown. How far did Berto walk? Okay, so here's how you figure this out. Opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. Okay, so if you have a rectangle, if it's a real rectangle, the side on the opposite is going to be the same length. So if this one is 6 yards, then over here, this is going to be 6 yards. So the side lengths are 12 yards, and 6 yards. Okay, so on the opposite side, 12 yards, this side's going to be 12 yards as well. Again, if this is a real rectangle. Add the measures of all the sides of the figure. Okay, so to find the perimeter, you have to add all the sides, which makes sense because if you were walking from here and you walked all the way around, you'd go 12 yards, and then you'd walk 6 yards, and then you'd walk 12 yards, and then you'd walk 6 yards. Okay, so there's a couple ways you could add it. You could just add it in a row, 12 plus 6 plus 12 plus 6. Or you could think 12 times 2 is 24, 6 times 2 is 12, and then 24 plus 12 is 36. Or you could just add it, in any order. You could do 6 and 12, because there's 2 of them. 6 and 12 makes 18. 18 times 2 is 36. Any way that works for you is fine, as long as you're adding up these 4 sides. So the perimeter is 36 yards. So Berto walked 36 yards. And here we have the key concept box. To find the perimeter of a rectangle, add the lengths of the sides. The perimeter of a rectangle also equals 2 times its length plus 2 times its width. Okay, so it's saying this side times 2 and this width times 2. Again, it doesn't really matter which way you add it, as long as you're getting all 4. And when we talk about length, we normally mean this long ways, and wide we mean this side, generally. We talk about width is this way, and length is this way. Of course, you could switch it that way. It would be the same. But generally, in math and in math questions, if they ask you width and length, they mean the length is the one going horizontally, like the x-axis, and the width is the one going vertically, like the y-axis that we learned about all the way in semester 1. Okay. Let's flip over. A square has 4 sides of equal length. To find the perimeter of a square, multiply the length of one side by 4. Okay, now a square is special because all of the lengths are equal. So if you're finding the way around, you don't have to think about 2 widths and 2 lengths, because they're all going to be the same. So if it's a square, you know that it's the same all the way around, and therefore you can just multiply by 4. So 6 times 4 is 24, just like 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 24. So the formula, that means the rule, is that you multiply the length of one side by 4 because there are 4 sides. S means side. 4 times the side is 4 times 6 equals 24. So the perimeter of the square is 24 inches. And this only works because it's a square, which means it has equal sides. Again, for a rectangle, that will not work because these two are going to be the same. Maybe we'll say 5. And this side is going to be much longer, 12. Okay. See you in class.